Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue or Service Asia TV. Tonight I have a very good friend, I would say, for all this year. He's not in Cambodia anymore, but he does come to Cambodia occasionally, and well-respected academician, researcher, think tank, a Cambodian scholar, Dr. Chhieng Vannarith, who will have a dialogue with us on what he sees the perspective of Cambodia in the context of ASEAN, regional architecture. Perhaps also we can tackle also the global trade war now, what's happening, what's the impact on Cambodia, a bit of everything, but more on the regional and global current affair. So Vannarith, welcome to our program, and thank you so much for squeezing 45 minutes to see us.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for the opportunity.
Call me Siphana.
Boss Siphana. It's my honor and it's my pleasure to be here. I've been following regional geopolitics for some
before
time.
You do that, a bit of background for the audience.
I've been working, at the Cambodian think tank for a decade. I was the director of Cambodian Institute for Cooperation and Peace.
Yes.
And now I'm a visiting fellow at the Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, based in Singapore. Before that, I was a lecturer at the University of Leeds, teaching
in
the UK.
Yes.
I'm teaching Asia Pacific international politics. It is in kind of interesting time to observe what's going on in Asia.
Yes.
We can see competing initiatives. Some countries are facing certain dilemma how to respond, to adapt to these changes. I am quite concerned about what's going on now in the world. It's kind of being fragmented in a way, right?
Yes.
While the global issue is much more interconnected, we don't have a clear leadership at the global level. Who will take the leadership to address a global issue like climate change, poverty, sustainable development, women
multilateral trading system,
multilateral system, and so on. In the post Second World War, the global governance system, economic governance system, has been based on what we call Washington Consensus. The World Bank, IMF, WTO, liberal economic ideology and values. Now it seems it's declining. This kind of liberal order is in decline. And who going to save this liberal order? Of course, Europeans still very proactive in a way to support the multilateral system, but the economic power and political leverage is not
changing.
It's not that significant.
The dynamics now, at least in our part of the world, is perhaps the most renowned initiative of China, the Belt and Road Initiative.
I think Belt and Road Initiative it's coming in a big wave. It's going to be a transformative force when it comes to global governance, economic cooperation, integration, and so on. Of course, it's a concern for some countries like the US, perhaps, that the ascending power of China may challenge the status quo power, especially in Asia and different parts of the world. So that comes to the heightening of power competition and rivalry. It's not only in Asia but across the world. And we can see this Indo-Pacific kind of strategy.
Yes, indeed. Initiated by Japan, no?
As a coalition of certain countries. Like
but
US, Japan.
It was started by Japan, though.
Japan initiated earlier, even during Barack Obama time. But
the traction is now.
The traction is now because this is a global power game. If you don't have great powers there, it's not so interesting,
But who's now in the alliance on this free and open Indo-Pacific? You have Japan, you have India, US and Australia, right?
Well, it's been formed. It's an evolving process, but it doesn't have clear concept and direction and strategy yet.
Indeed.
It seems that Japanese has its own version of Indo-Pacific. The US has its own version. India has its own version.
Yes.
Right?
And ASEAN also.
Also,
you know, Indonesia have
its own version.
Push its own version also.
But regardless of different initiative, I think as a member of ASEAN, Cambodia need to focus on the unity and centrality of ASEAN. We have East Asia Summit, and other ASEAN-led mechanisms.
Yes.
Why don't we strengthen the existing mechanism? Why we need to create a spaghetti ball? Multilateral.
In the trade world, we had that spaghetti bowl for a long while.
So I think this is something that perhaps Cambodia as a member of ASEAN need to emphasize further on the role of ASEAN as a regional grouping that will drive and shape regional architecture.
Centrality. That's the word. Centrality is the word. Well, I think that's why we, of course, the Cambodian government support Japan initiative of free Indo-Pacific. When our Prime Minister met Prime Minister Abe, I think it was last year. But in ASEAN, we also supporting an ASEAN-led initiative, even though centrality is everything already in, is sort of like a fait accompli in the mind of us ASEAN, right? We want to maintain this ASEAN centrality, but Indonesia is pushing this concept of Indo-Pacific, but very much along to support the ASEAN centrality.
Yeah, I think the Indonesian kind of leadership, de facto leadership, is well recognized within ASEAN, and of course the previous administration proposed this idea.
Yes. That was during Foreign Minister Marty.
Marty, and I think Marty still believes in this idea, and who knows, he may come back to the political arena in Indonesia and try to articulate, to push further the Indonesian way of the Indo-Pacific, or ASEAN way of Indo-Pacific. But the name itself has a problem. Why we don't have the word Asia, right? Indo-Pacific. So that's why some countries proposed that we should have the word Indo-Asia Pacific, but anyway,
you're right. Somehow you have Pacific, you have Indian Ocean, but then somehow we miss ASEAN, Asia, right in the middle. It's quite a very good point.
Yeah, I think this is something perhaps Cambodia can try to articulate further its position on Indo-Pacific by mentioning the role of ASEAN as a central role in shaping the regional architecture. Of course, I think Cambodia is supportive of Japan, welcome Japan, but Japan need to understand that without the centrality role of ASEAN, then this initiative go nowhere. Because two years ago, Kevin Rudd proposed the Asia Pacific Community.
That was in 2000, no?
Yeah. So
I was there. I was in Sydney when he invited us. And he launched an idea, but then it sort of died off. Didn't have any traction. But I think the traction now, in my view, is probably because of the Belt and Road. What do you think?
That's right. Geopolitically, the Indo-Pacific somehow aims to counterbalance to some extent, or to check the influence of China in the region through the Belt and Road. It is not only economic and cultural, but it has geopolitical implication. That's why some regional countries have expressed certain reservations to support the Belt and Road Initiative. So China still need certain time and efforts to convince that the Belt and Road Initiative is purely economic and cultural. But I don't know how many countries are convinced to that rhetoric.
Well, you mentioned the Washington Consensus, which is quite interesting. You have the World Bank, the IMF, the whole Bretton Woods institution. But now you have the rise through the Belt and Road of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is pretty much challenging, at least in our region, the supremacy of this Bretton Woods. No, what do you view on that?
I would call this kind of efforts by China, especially under President Xi Jinping, when it comes to Belt and Road, AIIB, it's part of institutional statecraft. how China can adapt to the existing global institution while reforming certain elements that China feel that China is not included or China cannot maximize its national interest.
Well, I think to be fair to China, because I follow a lot of the G20 development, since 2012 when we Cambodia was the chair ASEAN. There was a lot of, I would say, call to reform the governance of the of the Bretton Woods institution, right, which is giving more voice in this case to China. And there's a big country who sort of like oppose, right, while other countries support the idea that China should have a seat at the table. I guess after 4 or 5 years, China is sort of getting tired of waiting, to have a chair at the table. So the idea, well, if you don't give me the chair at your table, why don't I make my own table and I distribute the chair to everybody else? That's the metaphor.
I think that is the natural process of a growing power. You need more space. If you imagine China from a child to a toddler to teenagers and growing, so it needs more space and more global institution that can serve China interests. So in the Chinese calculation, perhaps the Bretton Woods system is not inclusive in a way. It doesn't really respond to global changes. Because now you can see the rising economic power of China.
The BRICS also, don't forget, you have the BRIC, which is what? Brazil, the R is Russia, India, China and South Africa. The BRIC also is taking a lot of oxygen from this global institution also.
Right. I think the BRIC is more a bit loose institution in a way. It's more of a functional cooperation and a platform to show political commitment. But it doesn't have a strong institution to enforce decision, for instance. So to some extent, the BRICS mechanism is not that strong enough that China can exercise leadership role. So that's why I think the Belt and Road Initiative is more in the kind of jurisdiction or leadership or
let's call it leadership, not jurisdiction. Okay, let's have a break, and then when we come back, we'll continue this very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Good. Vannarith, let's deepen a bit on this Belt and Road Initiative. I think it is very grand, it's multi-continent, but in our part of the world, which is Cambodia, Southeast Asia, we also have this Mekong Lanchang, which I think is a sort of like a sub-pillar, a sub-regional pillar of the Belt and Road. Do you agree or you don't agree?
Yeah, I totally agree with that understanding and approach to the Lancha Mekong Cooperation and Belt and Road. From my point of view, Belt and Road is an umbrella. Or you call it a ground strategy. It's kind of umbrella there. And in order to realize certain projects, we need to have a sub-regional mechanism. So that is the strength of the Belt and Roads, because it's too many sectors, too many actors. Right? It's a big messy, more than 60 countries. It's kind of half of the United Nations. So it's a bit messy there. So if we can come to a more concrete sub-regional cooperation like Langchang, Mekong cooperation, it will bring to the realization of those projects.
Yeah, because I think as a sub-regional project, it have to feed to the larger connectivity, if I can use the word, right? Because ultimately the Belt and Road is what? It's all about connectivity. And even with Asia and Europe, we talk a lot about how to connect these two continents, and one cannot not recognize the role of the Belt and Road in this grand scheme.
I think the ideals or the vision of the Belt and Road is, everyone should fully support it. But the problem is the size of China is too big. Sometimes, this is a natural problem of China. Because you have big size, so sometimes in order to build trust with the country along the Belt and Road,
the smaller one.
I need to put a lot of efforts, convincing power, soft power, and so on to convince the weaker states, the smaller states, that the Belt and Road Initiative doesn't aim to dominate the region, to dominate your country.
Well, I mean, speaking of dominating, how do you perceive the Belt and Road, in this case China, with the soft power of ASEAN? We're nonetheless a grouping of 10 countries, quite a good critical mass, critical market, 650 million people. I mean, quite a diverse sub-region. How do you see the relation between the Belt and Road and our master plan of ASEAN connectivity, for example? Similarity, complementarity, competition, what?
We can see it at the two level, at the bilateral level. So far, I could feel that the Belt and Road is more bilateral agreements, bilateral implementation. It doesn't have much to do with the ASEAN Master Plan of Connectivity, although in reality it complements well to the ASEAN Master Plan of Connectivity, but we don't have yet a concept note or a joint statement or declaration on the ASEAN Master Plan of Connectivity and the Belt and Road. We don't have that yet.
Do you think it's a good idea that ASEAN should, make a more formalistic linkage with the Belt and Road when it comes to the connectivity only, right?
I think ASEAN should, build a synergy between the ASEAN Master Plan of Connectivity and Belt and Road, because I don't see much kind of a controversial issue or competition. It's more like complementary to each other.
But we talk about Japan, talk about Belt and Road. Japan also have its own grand scheme also. They enhance quality infrastructure, for example, where they focus quite a bit in our sub-region in terms of developing economic corridor, economic border zone, stressing on quality infrastructure. I think the two are in a way competing for space.
Yes. That's right. Looking again from geopolitical point of view, that is competition. But again, if you look from the economic point of view, you don't see much attention there, because again, Japan has knowledge and technology compared with perhaps China in terms of infrastructure development. So if, let's imagine, if the ADB work together with AIIB, for instance, in
which they start doing that now. They start to do that now.
It will be positive to the whole regions. And AIIB is multinational organization. It's not only China, but it's multi-stakeholder.
We have a small stake there too.
So it's belong to many countries. ADB the same. It's not only Japan, but other countries too. So these two multilateral institutions, financial institutions, if they can work together, figure out what the project they can complement, and and the impact can be higher.
So you see clear synergy between the Japan initiative, China initiative, and ASEAN initiative. Combined all together, I think ASEAN, and by default Cambodia is a member of ASEAN, we should be able to draw some good benefit. And here, let me open a parenthesis in the context of Cambodia. The senior minister, Sun Hyantol, he's the Minister of Public Works and Transport. He is now developing his own master plan, of road, railway, inland waterway, and all this have some clear linkage to neighboring country, which is part of the sub-regional connectivity.
Actually, we should have this master plan on logistics some time ago, but still, better late than never.
Better late than never. No, I think because the minister want to have a more holistic approach in terms of having transport and logistics. To have good logistics without having a clear picture on where this multimodal transport will be, in a way, sort of like putting the cart before the horse.
That's right.
So he's very committed to have an integrated transport and logistic master plan in place.
That's right. I think logistics very critical in the context of connectivity, regional integration, right? Because when we talk about transport, it's quite we don't integrate the efficiency.
Yes.
For instance, if we build a highway from Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville, right, expressway.
Yes.
So along the way, what kind of facility we need to build in order to make use of the transport system that we have.
Yes.
We have a problem of containers shipping to other country and come back with empty containers. So we need to build a logistics storage mechanism. A small industrial zone here and there, supply chain, so that we maximize our hard infrastructure. And logistics, it include both hard and soft infrastructure.
Yes.
Right?
Vannarith, you mentioned about logistics, which lead me to the issue of trade diversification. How do you see our trade diversification right now as we speak? We're growing, trade-wise, but any prospect of having a good diversification country-wise?
I think a lot of works to do because looking at the source of growth, Cambodia is quite narrow.
Narrow base.
It's a more labor-intensive industry, agriculture, to some trade in services like tourism, financial services. So that is our limited capacities. I think we have, of course, tremendous opportunity to diversify trade relations. But in order to do that, we need to build our production capacity. What we can produce based on our strengths. Our strength is human resources, natural resources, and now human resources become more important than natural resources. So skills-driven economy, innovation-driven economy can be the future for Cambodia, because the good thing of us, we don't have a legacy problem.
Yes,
right?
indeed.
So we can leapfrog. I think you mentioned several times, we can leapfrog toward that more innovative economy. So I think the concept of Cambodia should be add a qualifying adjective like innovative Cambodia as a brand. For Cambodia to diversify trade, relationship.
And now we have quite a young, I would say, workforce that are quite keen. I would say, yes, now we pretty much rely a lot on the labor intensive, right? But I think in a country that emerged from war like Cambodia, there is no other way but to go through that first stage. It's how do you move people from an agricultural, rural mindset, waking up at the sound of the rooster, to an industrial setting where they go to work certain time, take a break certain time, and have a lunch at certain time. So I think it's a good progression. So at least the bulk of our workforce have the industrial mindset now. Now we have to take them to the next step, which is the skill level to match this industrial mindset.
Perhaps I'm in a position that I would like to see more progress, right? I think speed does matter. Of course, we started with very low base, but after 2 or 3 decades, I think we should be able, right, to catch up with neighboring countries. I think if we have a right policy, right leadership, the speed can be accelerated. Now we have to run. We can't walk anymore.
We cannot walk.
We have to run.
In a way, ASEAN. We saw like we're brother, but we're also competing.
That is good competition.
Competition is healthy. So on trade, I think we need to diversify. It's clear, but we have a challenge of how do you build a rapidly a skilled workforce, right? Okay.
Let's say manufacturing industry. I could see is emerging now. Right? European in terms of export of bicycle, Cambodia is kind of number one. Right? We can see success story like Mini Bear in terms of producing motor and export to supply chains, network in the region. So this is, but the problem is in terms of knowledge transfer, it's quite limited in Cambodia. That's why if it's in the context of Belt and Road or Lancha Mekong or our Chinese investor here in Cambodia, we need to encourage them to further promote capacity building, knowledge, technology transfer to Cambodia for long-term development of Cambodia. Because these Chinese engineer experts, they come 1 or 2 years and go back. What are they left behind? You need to transfer knowledge.
But I think, in the context of Cambodia, sometimes is the absorptive capacity, right? But if I take the construction industry, it's a good indicator that our Cambodian company, our Cambodian workforce, construction workforce, they are quite, I would say, educated now. Because they've been exposed to all this technology, this technique of construction. I mean, look, before Wat Phra Nhat Tower was built, before a few of these towers built, we cannot do it. But now, if you ask a local construction company, if they say, okay, brother, for 20 story, we can do it. So that's a good sign that now they move up from design, from mechanical engineering, construction, up to 20 stories. Not bad, not 40 yet, but I say it's a gradual step, right? But mainly because there's so much activity in the construction sector. But I agree with you, in the manufacturing, we need to up a bit the ante in terms of labor skill.
This technology transfer, we need to have constructive intervention from the government. So far, it's a market-driven. So I think the state need to facilitate to scale up technology transfer, knowledge transfer. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's about speed now. We need to accelerate the speed of development.
We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll tackle a bit how can we do that.
Yes.
Vannarith, speaking about state intervention, I hate to use the word intervention. I think I'm more a believer that states should set the right policy, the right environment, and be market driven. But at times there are time and moment where we need a big push from the state in terms of policy support, and more than just policy support. What do you have in mind?
I think somehow the Asian economic development model have been what we call developmentalism, state developmentalism, and state-led growth, looking from experience in Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and China now. Right? So that is the model. Of course, it's kind of outdated sometimes, but we need to remember that the state-market partnership is very crucial. We cannot allow the market to drive the whole process. But the state need to be a facilitator, not a disruptor. State intervention can be a source of disruption. Through corruption and so on. So that is the tricky point. If we can play the role of state well, then we can facilitate and this kind of reform, opening up, diversification and so on.
Well, Cambodia is a small country, and I would say trade matter for us, accession to WTO, entry to ASEAN in the context of a sub-regional integration. Cambodia is a firm believer of integration. But, integration has also a dark side. I would say when you are so into the global trading system, any distortion in the trade global system will have a direct impact on us. Here I'm talking more about the worry of the current rise of the possibility of a harsher trade war between, it starts with US, China now, but it starts to be US, EU. I think now even President Trump was threatening to pull out WTO. Like you said, when you start speaking in the beginning, you say we are living in a moment in time where it's a lot of uncertainty. What's your view on what's happening on the trade war and its likely impact on us?
Yeah, that's right. This is a deep concern out there. The market's a bit kind of shaking in response to the possibility of full-fledged trade war between the economic powers, especially China and the United States. We need to understand who we are. Cambodia is a small but open economy. So as a small open economy, we need to support the rule-based multilateral system.
Definitely. That's why we joined WTO.
Yeah, so that is based on who we are. We need to live within the international community. We need to open up. Need to do trade, investment, and so on. So I think Cambodia alone cannot sustain it, we need a coalition of countries, maybe like-minded countries, that they also support multilateralism.
I think with the exception of the U.S.
At this stage,
At this stage, right? The rest, we still believe in, sustaining, nurturing the multilateral trading system.
Yeah, I think if the world, united against the economic protectionism, I think Trump unilateralism will fail. Maybe in the short run we don't know yet, but medium term and long term it will fail.
Well, you start to see some effect already on the case of the Harley Davidson motorcycle, right? Where Mr. Trump was so excited about this American icon, and now because of the EU retaliating tariff, Harley Davidson have to move some of their production to Europe, and that caused a lot of anger from President Trump. But these are some of the things that we see that is talked around the world, right?
So I think perhaps the parameter to understand whether Trump policy is right or wrong from the American point of view, but we wait to see the midterm election, the result of midterm election, which will take place in November this year.
But that will be later on in the year. But currently, I would say the effect, the confidence to the market's not good.
That's right.
But to me, I think whenever there's some of this issue, there's always trade diversion. There's always some, I would say, movement where some country will benefit, some country will lose. In ASEAN, in the context of this trade war, what do you see? Will we be affected?
Yes and no. I think the yes is that the multilateral trading system is affected. The rule-based international system is in decline. And ASEAN is a combination of small and medium-sized countries.
Yes.
So they are concerned about these international institutions. They will be directly or indirectly affected through the supply chains network, because some of the countries, they supply intermediate goods to China. And then China produce it and then export it to the US. But there's a no also, because and there's also certain opportunities there. First, it put pressure on us to integrate further.
Yes.
Sometimes we need external pressure to force us to further integrate among ourselves for survival. Right? So that's why sometimes I think the prospect of regional economic comprehensive partnership.
The ASEP.
It can be concluded sooner.
You think so this year? I hope so.
Because of the East pressure, I think this external pressure can be a perfect storm for the regional countries to further deepen and integrate. Right? And of course, the trade diversion can also benefit some countries in this region. Perhaps depends on wait for the list of the products that the US will impose, and how or what type of products, and then we can relate the impacts of that trade war with our regional production network.
Well, I see one example that could benefit us is that if the tariff is very high on Chinese product, maybe some could migrate to Cambodia and then
rule of origin.
Rule origin, and move to America, not being subject to the high tariff. And it's interesting because Cambodia, in a way, since I'm a bit here, I would say fatalist in the sense that sometimes we get hit by destiny. Cambodia has been pretty much, I would say, destiny play a big role in many of our fortune and misfortune. But the misfortune is a killing field, of course, right? But then the fortune, one good example is that when we were negotiating to join WTO, there was the SARS, the respiratory disease, right?
2003.
Yes, and then so China production stopped because I would say the quality control people from the big buyer, since they could not travel to China, they could not place order.
Yeah.
And guess what? China moved some of their production factory to Cambodia, not the full scale, but we got quite a bit of factory moving to Cambodia because we are not hit by SAR. And then the quality inspector came to Cambodia. So you see, hopefully in this trade war misfortune between the major power, there's some fortune for Cambodia. I don't know.
It depends on our capacity to grab opportunities,
Yes.
And to have early prediction,
Yes.
and prepare ourselves to reduce the risk and the adverse impacts.
Yes.
But try to optimize the opportunities. And in every crisis, there always
There's
have
an opportunity. Yeah. But looking forward, how do you see our region? Okay, I mean, hopefully the ASEAN will be concluded. I think for the region, ASEAN as a whole is quite stable, I would say. Economically we're doing well, investment we're doing well. China is, the Chinese factor is quite beneficial for our region. Europe still considered as a good partner. So all in all, what's your assessment of ASEAN first?
I'm very optimistic looking at the future of ASEAN, especially when it comes to economic cooperation and integration, because there's a clear political will and commitment at the highest level, and there's a clear kind of interest from the private sector to benefit from this regional integration. A lot of ASEAN companies now go regional. If not yet global, they go regional.
Regional,
right?
yeah.
Our Asilida Bank, for instance, have been expanding over the years to ASEAN countries, and of course some other foreign company coming to Cambodia as well to establish their branches and office here. So the China factor contribute tremendously, create a new opportunity and alternative for ASEAN economy to connect and to benefit. Now China is moving toward more innovation-driven economy.
Yes.
So the manufacturing industry moving perhaps from the east to the west of China, maybe some of them go south.
South to us.
So that is the Langcha Mekong. That's why Langcha Mekong matters in the production capacity and cooperation. Because it's a market rules, right? It's a natural process, so that we can grab the benefits from this. But we need to prepare ourselves.
Yes.
Because we have competitors, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, right, or Laos.
Yes.
If they have more human resources, more infrastructure to attract more Chinese investment, then we may lose some to those countries.
Yes.
Of course, we are all member ASEAN as a family, but we need to compete with each other sometime, right? Because national interest always ahead.
Yes.
But we need to balance anyway, national interest and regional interest.
What's your view on the midterm prospect of Cambodia economy in that context?
I think if Cambodia can maintain the economic growth of about 7%, then I think industrialization will move forward, and innovation gradually, digital economy, digital infrastructure will come. But I think the most important element is human capital.
Okay.
I think for the new government after the election, I think they need to put more efforts, put human first or human capital first strategy. Because I think hard infrastructure somehow doing quite well, right? Road, rail, airports,
we're doing well. We're doing
quite well. The lacking point is soft infrastructure. So that is something I believe if you have a right strategy, a right leadership, to invest in human capital, soft infrastructure, then Cambodia can be a new tiger.
we can catch up the neighbor.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Vannarith, I won't bother summarizing because we cover such a broad spectrum of topic, from global trade war down to a micro level of human resource development in our country, but we did tackle quite a bit of regional issue, ASEAN, the China Belt and Road, Japan, enhance economic partnership, infrastructure, quality infrastructure, Indo-Pacific, free and open Indo-Pacific. Wow, that's quite a lot of topic to cover in one show. But I think we have a good picture on where things stand. We just hope that there'll be some, I would say, resolution somehow, that the multilateral trading system will be preserved, maintained, nurtured, and secure, because like I said earlier, that Cambodia, for Cambodia, trade matter, and as a small country, we need a rule-based multilateral trading system. So anyway, thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.